Here's how to run a 4-5 40-yard dash. It is simple, but it isn't easy, and that's why I'm going to break it down here for you today. If you haven't met me before, I'm Jacob. I work with high school football players to help them drop their 40-yard dash at least 0.2 seconds and transform their athletic abilities to help them earn Division I scholarships. Here we go. We're going to get right into it. So start as a pyramid. This is the easiest way to kind of comprehend how you're actually going to run this 4-5 40. First, there's a foundational layer, and each layer will stack on top of the rest to help you get you to where you want to go. So first, have to be decently strong. Not saying we got to squat 500 pounds, but we definitely got to have some ability. So for myself, I squatted 495 pounds, but still ran a 4.940. So I took this strength portion way too seriously because I didn't understand the rest of this until I learned these systems and abilities through IMG Academy and different mentors. So now I can run a 4.6, which inevitably got me to that D1 level. But for general base, squat 1.5 times your body weight is going to be the big benchmark. If you can't do that, follow Prilipin's chart. That's all it is. Look it up online. Super easy way to get stronger. Like literally every single training plan that's actually decent follows this chart in how much weight and volume and percentage you're using to get stronger. And if you can follow this for an extended amount of time, 3 to 6 months, you'll definitely get stronger. But yeah, if you're not back squatting 1.5 times your body weight, you probably have chicken legs and should click off this video because the rest of this doesn't really matter. But going into the next phase, have the strength considered. You weigh 200 pounds, you squat at least 300 pounds, so not super hard. Good depth, good form with that as well. Then we're going into power and plyometrics, because now we have the base of how much absolute force can we produce. Now it's about how fast can we produce it. So looking down here at this strength, that can be translated to this force velocity curve. So there's going to be strength with the absolute most amount of force, but the speed is very slow. You think about 1 rep max on back squat, might take you 5 seconds to get up, super slow. Speed on the opposite end is 0.1 seconds or less with like ground contact times. So basically, complete spectrum here of what we're looking for: speed, power, and strength. We have to train all of it. There's also strength, speed, and speed, strength here, but we don't have to get into that right now. So for these power and plyometrics, we can't simply just sprint fast. Like obviously that will help a ton and one of the biggest levers we can pull to actually get us faster. But there's more than just that. We have to jump with it, and we have to have things like power cleans and plyometrics. So we look at, let's say we want to add power to our training. Power cleans. Okay, that's going to be in the power section. And that's something, right? Say you back squat those, let's just say you back squat 400 pounds because you've trained for a little bit, you're pretty strong. 2 times body weight, which is a really good goal to have. And after 2 times body weight, it's kind of irrelevant with how much stronger you can get will actually make you faster. So let's say 200 pounds, back squat 400 pounds with good form. Now we need to get more powerful. Okay, let's throw some cleans in there on a week-to-week basis. Something very violent, triple extension, ankles, knees, and hips is going to translate super well to our acceleration phase of sprinting. Because you think about when you're actually sprinting, you are here and triple extending right here, hips, knees, ankles, to get you to run down the field. Now, we have some power stuff. We're doing some cleans, things like that. Cool. Plyometrics. This is where it gets really tough and where guys start to mess it up. That's why I have this here for you. Plyometric volume. This is what any good program will follow if it's actually good, right? So this is multiple different tiers of plyometrics that you should be doing, and this is on a day-to-day basis. So light, medium, deep, and ping. So something light will be like a pogo jump, very easy intensity. It's not hard. You can do a lot of them, right? This is more tissue tolerance right here. That's why the reps, we're doing 40 to 80 of those a session with each of my guys. Medium, this is something that's a little tougher. Probably you can think about more 70% effort. And we can do a little more volume here, but this is a little tougher on ourselves. We couldn't just sit here all day like we could in the light. Deep, that's something we're looking at, deep joint angles, because if you want to run a 4.5 40, cool. But if you want to go D1, it's going to take more than just a 40. Obviously, that'll be a massive factor. But are you a fast guy in the 5-10-5 and the L drill as well? You better be doing deep tier plyometrics. And those are things like getting into a lunge position where the knee angles and hip angles are a lot deeper. That's where we're looking at this. So different types of jumps and variations with this. This can be 30 to 50. Sometimes it's a little less. I mean, it depends on exactly how you're doing them. And that's what I'm taking care of for literally all of my athletes. And then ping tier. This is things we're thinking about absolute max effort. So like vertical tuck jumps, double and triple broad jumps, things like that. Or even like single leg bounds as hard and as fast as you can. This is ping tier. There's a reason there's only 10 to 20 of them because they are so potent. If we're doing 50 of these a session, sure, you're going to be gassed, you're going to be tired. You're not going to be getting faster. You're probably going to be getting shin splints super fast. Your CNS is going to be absolutely fried because this is the amount of volume per one session. And if we do 3 to 4 times that amount, that's more than a good weekly volume. And we're going to get absolutely crushed. Maybe we'll see progress for like a week or two, but it's going to be something like this. We're going to basically thinking about how our body adapts to stress. So here's our baseline. When we apply a stressor, back squatting, plyometrics, sprinting, anything like that, our body dips below our baseline. And in a good training session, we recover and our baseline is now slightly higher. Same thing, and it keeps going up over time. So our baseline increases over time. So our baseline is up here. But for example, if we did 50 ping tier plyometrics, it looks something like this. We're here, we go down, we recover, but we don't recover even back to the baseline. We do it again, and we keep getting lower and lower. So our baseline is actually decreasing. We're right here now. Our baseline is decreasing because we have so much volume and intensity. Our body is a machine, and we can't just throw every single thing at it, and we can't even handle it at all. So now our baseline is even lower. We're increasing our risk of injury substantially, and we're just going to be miserable because we're probably working really, really hard at this point. This is something that I did a lot around my sophomore year. Spending hours in the gym, 2-3 hours, cool. But my baseline is never increasing because I'm going so hard, I cannot allow my body to recover. And especially if we're chasing something like a 4.5 40-yard dash, you're at the athleticism and physical ability to the point where you can't throw anything at your body and expect to get faster. Say we're at a 4.8 looking to get a 4.5. We're a decent enough athlete right now. We have to start meticulously planning how we're doing our work to make sure that we can actually get faster. We can't just show up at the gym and expect not really have a really good structured plan in terms of things like this and expect to get as fast as we possibly can. You can definitely get faster, but it's not going to be ideal because our body is very good at adapting to things. But we want the absolute best, considering the factors of how are we recovering? Are we doing way too much where our baseline is decreasing? Or is our baseline increasing up here? And then what type of plyometric volume are we looking at? Because these are some of the biggest factors that's going to come down to is most people can get strong. Most people can squat 1.5 times body weight. Like I said, if you're watching this and you can't, go watch a different video on how to get stronger. Now this is where it starts to get a little tougher. The power and plyo, like we talked about, because there's a force velocity curve. Things that are closer, like power cleans, are up here. But you can think about like broad jumps, things like this, bounding right here, sprinting, right? And we have to hit everything along the curve. That's what a good training plan will do for you. But often I see that extremely neglected. So now we have the power determined through the force velocity curve here. We know how many plyos we should be doing and in what type. And we just basically have to determine what is a light, medium, deep, and ping tier. I got that all covered for my athletes, so they don't even know this exists, but this is literally what I'm covering for them, so to make sure their bodies can recover. And even at times when they have all their other stuff going on, right, they have their lifting with school, their practices with their teams, and the camps they're going out to, how do I adjust this on a day-to-day basis to make sure that they're not doing too much volume on a weekly basis or a monthly or a period, so that this baseline is still increasing, it's not decreasing, because I'm taking into account the other volume that they got going on. And that's something you need to do in your training as well. If you're just looking at things as individualized parts and not a whole system and your body as recovering as a whole, you are going to get cooked at some point because you're not going to consider that. Now, speed. This is what people really care about, obviously, and I have a rule for that. When we're sprinting, it needs to be fast, frequent, spell that right, and fresh. If you don't understand this, you will be slow forever. So that's why I'm going to explain it to you, because I don't want you to be slow. So you have to run fast. Obviously, if you think you can run at 90% every day, like 90% of your true max velocity every day, and actually get faster, you're not going to be getting as fast as you can. Now you have to sprint frequent enough. Most of the time, if we're at a 4.8 looking to get to a 4.5, it's going to be 2 times a week. We look at more than that, body's going to be really tough and in a really bad spot to recover. And if you think about it, you also have your practices, your lifting, things like that, where you're doing sub-maximal sprinting, right? 2 is going to be the best bet, that we're not pushing it too much. Say if we were a sprinter and we had absolutely everything optimized, we didn't have any of our lifting or like where we're actually trying to get stronger or our practices on day to day, maybe we could get away with 3. But for 95% of high school athletes, 2 is going to be the great spot to actually get faster for how frequently we're sprinting. Then we have to be fresh. That means, like I said, are we recovering enough so when we sprint, we're sprinting at this new baseline right here, not this baseline? Did we allow ourselves enough time to recover and get up to here? Or did we go so hard on Monday? Now, Wednesday, when we try to sprint again, we're right here, and now we just dig ourselves into a deeper hole. That's what we have to be mean and fresh. And a lot of times you can feel how fresh you are. If you've been training long enough, 2+ years, you probably have at this point. If you haven't, I don't know what you're doing. Then you'll know when there's a day like, oh shoot, like I'm not feeling so hot. Maybe this sprinting is not gonna be so fast. So there's gonna be those days who's like, man, I'm on it. I am ready to go. That's your central nervous system. And that's what I mean by fresh. So, but if we're not fresh, we're not gonna sprint fast. So all 3 of these are combined, that we have to be fast when we sprint 2 times a week. That's how frequently we want to sprint. And we have to be fresh when we do it. And the easiest way to block this out for most guys is gonna be Monday acceleration. Like I said, if we want to be a D1 athlete, we have to be able to change direction as well. We can go Wednesday, change a direction, or Wednesday, max velocity, and then Friday, do the opposite one. So let's just say Monday, acceleration, Wednesday, change direction, Friday, max velocity. That's going to be a really good way to actually follow this fast, frequent, fresh rule, because that change of direction doesn't actually really count as a sprint day, but is another day that we definitely need to take into account, especially for this camp season. L-drill 5-10-5, you're not training specifically for that and the actual technique of it. You are going to get left behind by other guys who have. Speed. This is where we're at. Now, looking at the actual volume of speed, because thinking about this rule here, we need to make sure our volume is still good. Because most guys think they can just show up and sprint a ton, looking at 45, like more than 45-minute sessions, and will be in a good spot. Likely, probably not. So with the volume, we really can go anywhere from about 120 to 200 yards for acceleration. So I'll write that down for you. 100 to 200 yards for acceleration. Because we go any further than that, we can push up to 300 if you're a very advanced and trained athlete, but likely probably not the case at the moment. I don't even personally do that much volume. We always typically do want to be on the low end for things like this. And for this chart here, typically aiming at the low end because we have all the other outside factors of practice, lifting, things like that. 100 to 200 yards of acceleration. Cool. Then we want to go into max velocity. That's anywhere really 30 to 100 max V. 30 to 100. You think about doing a fly, so say a 10-yard build in, 10-yard fly, you can do 3 of those, you can definitely get faster. But say you do 20-yard build-ins, 20-yard flies, and you do 10 of them, so you're doing 200 yards of max velocity work, you are going to be absolutely cooked for the next couple days, even if you don't realize it. But your central nervous system is going to be blasted, and you're going to be in a wild ride, and you're going to be on this path right here. So then change of direction. It's more hit or miss. There isn't a specific yardage because it's not exactly programmed the same. We're still looking to hit these same plyometric volumes, and then practicing things like our L drill and 5-10-5 actually working the actual technique and being coached up on the proper steps and foot placement. Because believe it or not, really tough to believe, I'm sure, 5-10-5 and L drill, super technique based. You're in such a tight change of direction, putting your foot just 3 inches in a different spot can instantly change how fast you're running because of the technical components and how tight of a space it is. So that's why it is super important to have a coach, especially if you're looking to be that complete athlete and really put all this together. A good coach should be considering all these factors when you're working with them. And most of the time, they can't be figured out in just doing 1 or 2 sessions a week with an in-person coach. So they don't understand your entire schedule that you have going on to make sure we're not in this recovery deficit that's going to literally kill everything, get you hurt, and ruin your football career. So, fast, frequent, fresh, 100 to 200 yards of acceleration, 30 to 100 max velocity. Now we need to rest properly so that this volume makes sense. Like, we can do this, but if we're resting 15 seconds between each rep, we're not going to be fast and we're not going to be fresh. So we just broke 2 of our 3 golden rules. So that means we have to rest properly. So, rule of thumb, for every 10 yards, we rest 1 minute. And this will be literally perfect. For rest, 10 yards, 1 minute. That's all it is. So if I'm doing 6 by 20 to hit my 120 yards, those 20 yards, I'm resting 2 minutes. Super simple, super easy to remember. And it's going to feel like a long time rest because we want you to be fully recovered and sprinting at maximum speed, or you're going to get cooked, like I said. And none of this even matters if you can't follow some of these rules. So 10 yards, 1 minute, going to be the absolute best way to go about it. And this is honestly the hardest one for my athletes to follow because I have all the rest times in there for them, so they don't even have to guess about things like this for change of direction, these plyos, how long are we guessing, and resting. But it feels like a long time. It makes your sessions go longer, obviously, which is fine because if we want to be fast, we have to make sure we follow the rules, and that's why we have to rest long enough. But even myself, when I was younger, I didn't think I needed to rest that much, and I thought it was tougher because I was sweating really hard. I was getting out of breath after my sprints, and what do you know? I was stuck at a 4.9 for literally a year until I figured out this whole model, and that got me down to a 4.6 in high school. And actually allowed me to now be at Furman University for football, if you don't know that yet. So, resting this long, and that will get you where we want to go. So, we've kind of covered the actual intensity with the plyometrics, the actual volume, the rest time. So, basically, we're in a pretty good spot. Now, think about speed, plyo, both of these, really all 3 of these, but it gets more important the higher we go up, is getting coached up on your technique. Strength, everyone inherently knows how to do back squat. There's definitely better ways to do it and having good technique, things like that. But we're going up and up and up, and speed is going to be the most important of how are we making sure that we have good form, and it's going to be able to cut down tenths of a second, especially when you think about the difference between a 4.6 and a 4.5 in terms of your D1 recruitment. Absolutely insane. And a lot of times that can come down to just a few minor technique changes, even looking at how do you literally just get in a better stance with your 40-yard dash, literally just changing that, or even having a pre-40-yard dash routine so you're in the proper mental state every single time, will change your speed and get you down to 4.5. As with all this, and all of this, you can definitely get faster, but if you want to drop from a 4.8 to a 4.5 in 90 days, definitely going to be tough, going to need to be coached, and you're going to need to have your technique absolutely dialed in and be really good at taking coaching cues to get you there. Then finally, you're a good athlete, you're strong, you're now powerful along this curve right here. We covered this in your training. You're fast right here. Now it comes down to mentally, how do you handle yourself when you get to a camp so you can actually run that 4.5 40-yard dash in front of coaches, because the coaches don't see it. Quite honestly, at this time in camp season, it does not matter. You can run a 4.5 in training, but you go out there and run a 4.7. Sorry, buddy. So how do we handle that? First is going to be, how do we peak your body with these 3 things going into camp? Well, you have to reduce the volume a little bit, reduce the intensity, that we kind of understand how important is the camp for you and weighing out the pros and cons of a full week of training versus this camp opportunity. which one is more important and how do you weigh those out? Because obviously you still want to dominate for your senior year coming up. How do we evaluate those? It's going to be tough to do on your own, but obviously I handle that completely for my guys, so they're all peaked and go into these camps and run PRs at the camps, not just with me. So got that covered. Obviously, you want to make sure you're hydrating, eating right before training and like the camp, things like that. Probably traveling like 4 or 5 hours at least to get to some of these camps. So making sure you're taking the time at the gas stations to stretch, things like that, especially if it's a day before, especially the morning of. Definitely need to be getting loose on your way there. Don't want to be sitting 5 hours and then just try to go run fast. Probably not going to work the best. Then also having the mental routines beforehand. Okay. So have you visualized yourself actually succeeding and doing this in front of the coaches at that exact stadium? So say you're going Indiana, the national champs, probably going to be like 100 coaches there or something like that. They're probably having a couple other small schools in there as well. So a lot of people watching your 40-yard dash, can you see yourself in that Indiana Hoosier Stadium ready to dominate, and you see yourself inside that stadium about to run that 40-yard dash? Do you get nervous as hell? Probably. But when you get out to that camp, you can't be shitting down your leg. So you have to practice it mentally hundreds of times before you get out there. So that when you get out there, you've already done it and you've seen yourself run that 4 or 5 multiple times already. Because if you don't, you get out to an environment you don't know, like I did to myself because I didn't understand this when I was a sophomore in high school. I would get out to these camps and I did not know what was going on, no clue what to expect. I get out there, I get super nervous in front of these coaches because I think I'm going to get offered by run a 4.9 because I'm nervous and I don't know what I'm doing. Obviously, they're not going to offer me at that point. But then it's just a big waste of time because I was not mentally prepared, even though I had some of this. Like, sure, I wasn't perfect. My speed still wasn't great. But, like, if I was mentally prepared, I could have shaved probably another 0.05 to 0.1 off my 40 because I knew exactly what to expect. I'd done the mental reps and I prepared myself physically in this regard. Then finally, you literally toe the line. You need to have a pre-40-yard dash routine. You look at any NFL combine, dude, they have some routine to make sure that they are dialed in mentally and ready to go. A lot of them do a massive tuck jump, which I think is great. And if you're not doing it, you should probably do it because what that does is it puts all the attention on you. If a coach sees you do a tuck jump, like honestly, it looks like a super athletic movement because you get your legs super high. If you have a big tuck jump, the coach is like, oh, shoot, dude just looked like he had a 40-inch vertical. Let's watch him run his 40. And if you've done everything else right, shoot, you're going to run that 4 or 5. You're going to be in a really good spot the rest of camp because these coaches are like, okay, this guy's got some legit speed. Let's watch him through the rest of the combine drills, the one-on-ones. Maybe let's offer him. So I think a good thing that you can really do is a massive tuck jump, get your legs a little primed a little bit, look like an athletic freak, get all the attention on you, which is exactly what you want if you go to these camps. You don't want to hide away. You want to get in front of all these coaches to see you. And then you do that. Then hopefully we get right here and we run that 4.5. Exactly like what we wanted. But notice it's a big pyramid. Everything tightening down to get us exactly to the goal that we want. And D1 at the top. Right? So it is pretty simple. I mean, there's all of this. It's pretty simple, but it's not easy, obviously. So if you're the type of guy who doesn't want to leave your camp seasons up to chance, you want to give yourself the best shot to earn the recruitment opportunities that you deserve. You want to try to run that 4 or 5 40-yard dash, and you want to try to drop 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, even 0.5 off your 40 in the next couple weeks, months before camp season, you're going to be in a great spot. I work with athletes to do exactly that. I've worked with over 80 athletes in the past year, all focused on these principles to make them as athletic as possible and help them play at the next level. So if that's something you don't want to leave up to chance and you are serious about what you can do, if you have varsity film, you've been out to multiple camps, and you're serious about playing at the college level, what you can do is you can go down below, click the link in the description of this video, fill out my application, and book a one-on-one call with me personally. And what we'll do is we will evaluate your situation and see if there's any room where I can help you to help you run your 4 or 5 40-yard dash and get you the recruitment opportunities that you deserve. If not, No worries. Take some notes, look at this, implement this into your life. And I guarantee you, if you can follow these rules I just mentioned, you will be a faster athlete. See you guys in the next one.